Hi everyone, my name is Christina Ignatius. I am a certified floral designer and educator here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was driving my kids home from school today and my son had this brilliant idea. He said, "Mom, you do these beautiful hand-tied bouquets, but what if you showed a video that showed you deconstructing it and making it again?" And I thought that was a genius idea to show everyone from end to finish how you can do a beautiful hand-tied freestanding bouquet. To get started, I'm going to show you the tools that I use to make my hand-tied bouquets. First, I use a beautiful Japanese secateurs. These are about 20 years old. You can find them online. They're just very sharp. They have one straight edge so that when you're cutting your flowers, it doesn't pinch your stems. That's very important because we want nice, fresh, clean cuts. The second tool that I like to use are these Karen K. Buckley serrated scissors. I am a quilter too, so anytime that I can merge quilting into floral, I love it, and a way I do that is by my tools. These are a beautiful serrated scissor. They're very sharp, they can do lots of detailed work, and they make the cleanest cuts on ribbons, so these are really good. And then also I use a Swiss Army knife, an oldie but a goodie. Usually you see these red, but I love pink, so I got the pink ones. We are also going to use some Oasis bind wire, and I always suggest whenever you're making a hand-tied bouquet, go ahead and cut it now, because ask me how I know, when you're making this bouquet and you have your hands full, the last thing that you want to do is be reaching and cutting and that when you have your hands full. So go ahead and cut that now, it'll save you a lot later. Okay, so we have a beautiful hand-tied bouquet here that I've put in water. As you can see, it stands on its own. Which is a very cool technique to learn as you become more and more advanced in your floral design. But right now we're going to deconstruct this, so I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do here. As you can see, I've used bind wire, but just for video purposes, I'm just going to cut this off for now. And then I'm going to just lay out my components as I would when I start my bouquet. So I'm going to put all the flowers in similar piles. So I have some absolutely beautiful lemon basil, which I wish you could smell. It smells like summer on a stem. It's gorgeous. Some wonderful alum. All of my products here are from Whipstone Farms and Black Cur Farms here in Arizona. So even though that it's 104 degrees or 40 degrees Celsius, we still have really beautiful product here in Arizona. So I'm just spreading these out as you would. When you start processing them, I think it's very important to process your flowers well when you get them. And when I say that, what I mean is to remove any foliage that's below your water line. Because that's going to encourage bacteria and age your flowers faster, we want to avoid that. So by taking off all the stems that are either damaged or below the water line, that's a good thing to do. I'm just going to go ahead and continue taking this apart, and I'll meet you back here in a second. Okay, so we've deconstructed this bouquet, and this is what we're left with. Now, what I would suggest that you do when you go ahead and get your flowers processed, hydrated, hardened off, go ahead and lay them on your table after you've cleaned them. So you can see I have nice, beautiful, clean stems that I've removed all the foliage from. I've kept a little on the top. I don't mind a little bit if it looks pretty good. And I also have my armature. I will be showing another video on how to make this armature later, so go ahead and look for that. But here's the armature that I'm starting out with. I'm using this, it's made from Oasis rustic wire in their green color. And then I've also made a handle. Handles are optional. As you have this and you put your flowers in, you can absolutely use your stems as a natural handle. Completely fine. I just like the stability and the structure of a handle because I feel that I can manipulate it a little bit more And then at the end, you can always manipulate these to any shape that you want. They can go down, they can go up, you can do a Hogarth curve, you can go up and make a beautiful enclosed arrangement, which is my favorite look, and that's what we'll be doing today. So let's get started. When I start with my armatures, I love to add some larger flowers in tight. This is going to give me some depth, this is going to give me some interest, and it's also going to give my bouquet a nice balance. And I always want to use a spiral hand-tied technique. And what I mean by spiral hand-tied is all of my stems are going to be going the same way when I place them in my bouquet. And if I didn't do that, and say, you'll see it a little bit better later as there's more stems, right now there's only 3. But if I was to come in going, say, this way, and these stems are crisscrossed, when I go ahead and bind it at the end, it's going to pinch the stems, and again, they're going to not last as long because now you've pinched them and they're not going to be able to intake water. So by doing these all at in one angle like this, it's just going to give space for your stems, and it's also going to give them just the stability that they need to remain strong and not become damaged as you're arranging your flowers. So again, so we have these beautiful sunflowers, which have just a lovely mauve in the middle, and just they're just exquisite. I like to make sure that all of my sunflowers kind of have a face, so any way you turn the arrangement, I kind of like to see at least one facing me. Next, what we're going to do is I'm going to use this beautiful amaranthus, and again, I've removed all of the stems. They are a little bit shorter only because they already have been hand-tied. Once you get your stems, you can cut them a little bit shorter, but you might want to keep the length just in case you want them taller, or if you want them in a different angle, it's nice to be able to have that without cutting them off in the beginning. So I'm going in my armature, and I'm also going outside of my armature when I'm doing this. And I'm going to group some on one side because I think that that adds a lot of impact, and I'm going to kind of group these on this side. So, but again, always using that spiral technique. I'm going to go in here with some of this beautiful Lysianthus. And again, I'm going inside my armature and I'm going outside of my armature. And I'm just going to keep spinning it and turning as we go here. These marigolds smell so beautiful. My mom used to always get these every year for her garden, so it kind of reminds me of her. So that smells fun. I'm going to add some of these taller alum now. These are our garlic. It's just so amazing. And they're so tall. And these ones I am just going straight up and down, and I'm going in the middle of it. So it's not as a spiral, but since they're going straight up and down, you're okay to add them in the middle. If they happen to go outside, just again, you really want to emulate the way the other stems are going. But I kind of like them wonky like this. They have very cool stems. So my taller line flowers, like this alum and like this millet, are going towards the middle. That's going to give your eye the ability to travel through this bouquet. I'm not crisscrossing any stems in my arrangement. I think that's a little confusing for the eye. So I'd like to give everything its own space. This one's a little broken, so I'm not going to use him again. I prefer to use my lighter colors in the middle and then graduate to these like deeper colors below, just because they're visually heavier, because they're darker. It's just more pleasing to the eye. I'm going to go ahead and add some of these zinnias in. And I want these zinnias because they're just such a showstopper. I mean, it's like the whole universe in that one flower. It's so beautiful. I really want these to dance above my arrangement. And what I mean by that is I want them just to be able to have its own space. I do love grouping my flowers. Again, it just gives it a really nice impact. Now these coneflower, they're still very good. They do have a bit of a limp to them, but they're still very solid. But just a fun thing, if you wanted to manipulate them, you can take off the petals like this. Kind of like a he loves me not. And it just gives you a fun color, a fun texture. It goes really well with these marigolds, that orange. I think it's really important to add a lot of textures into a bouquet to give it just a lot of interest. I think it's great when your clients can really get up close to your arrangements. So the last I'm going to add is this lemon basil. And I'm adding it towards the outside of the armature and the inside of the armature, just like we've been doing. I don't tend to use a ton of foliage in my bouquets. I more or less use it just to give my underside here a nice finished look. But I think the flowers, when they have too many greens, it kind of camouflages them, and I don't really like that. So as you can see, we have this lovely hand-tied composed again, and here's where that bind wire comes in, because now I have this whole hand-tied arrangement here. So the last thing I want to be doing is using my teeth, using my hands, using whatever I can use to get a piece of bind wire. So I'm simply going to go once around, twice around, 3 times around, laying it down, and I'm just twisting it nice and tight. And then I'm also going to trim off the excess, just because I want a nice pretty look. Now when I go to cut my bouquets, I like to cut them straight. And I know everybody's going to tell you always cut your flowers at an angle, which is also true. Now, when I cut them straight, it's because I want this bouquet to stand up. If I was going to be putting arrangement or flowers in an arrangement, I absolutely would cut them at an angle. If you can think about a drinking straw, when the straw is at the bottom of a cup, it's kind of hard to intake the water or whatever you're drinking. But if you have a nice slant in your straw, then you're going to be able to really intake that water better. It's the same thing for flowers. I also grabbed my wire cutter. Since I'm redoing this bouquet, it's a little bit shorter, and my armature, as you can see, the handle is sticking out. So I'm going to use my wire cutters. Never use like your really nice clippers when you're cutting wire, or your scissors when you're cutting flowers, because you really want to take care of your tools. Like these clippers that I have here, they're about 20 years old, and I do get them sharpened regularly. So it's just important to take care of your tools. It's an investment, so make sure that you treat them well. And then you can go ahead and just stand that up. And again, we have a beautiful, a little bit shorter, but a beautiful hand-tied arrangement. What I like to do when I put these in water, if I could have that loamy dish on the ground. If you wanted to keep this hand-tied just as is, because it's really dramatic and fun, what I like to do is just grab a loamy dish or a glass short vase, and then you can set your flowers in it and just pour some water every day. It'll tend to drink up, but it's really easy because you can just pick them up, give them a nice fresh cut, place them right back down, and you can just enjoy the beauty and the magic of these gorgeous flowers. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If there's any questions that you have, please go ahead and just drop me a comment below or a question below. Do we have any questions today from our audience here?
Yes, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one being, what type of flowers are best for hand tides?
That's a great question. The best flowers for hand tides are all the flowers. I don't mind mixing temperate and tropical flowers together. I think you really get the spectrum of the beauty of all flowers, all encompassed in one bouquet. That's really special. Anything with textures, anything with, you know, some beautiful color palettes that you can really stretch out those colors within the different harmonies is really exciting as well. Your other question?
Do you have a video of how to make armatures?
That's another great question. I will be posting more videos coming up, so feel free to, pop on and look at those. The next video I will be doing is an armature. I also have a class down at the Arizona Flower Market coming up, so you can even join me in person. But go ahead and stay tuned. It'll be on shortly. Okay, so that's the video for today. I'm just going to add some water here. And then I'm going to put this right on my kitchen island and enjoy it for the rest of the week. But again, if you have any comments, questions, anything, feel free to drop a line down below. So thank you again so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And thank you to my son for giving me this great idea of deconstructing the hand tide and then reconstructing it with all its components. So you can see here, it's just a lovely arrangement to have. Make sure you fill it up with lots of water. You can pop it into a vase too if you want. It doesn't have to freestand like this, but it's just a nice element when you do. So thanks again. This is Christina Ignatius signing off.